Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I am your host, Ty Christensen. Where is she? Where's my daughter? And we've got Jordan Christensen on the pod.
I'm trying to remember. It's something like, it's better... Wait, pray to somebody else. Have the quote ready.
You're getting it perfect, Jordan. It's pray for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yes, that's my quote.
Pray, no, never, always. No, let's see. Nice, Jordan. Very nice. We've got Cameron Mickle on the pod.
Every day she's wondering why I'm not there. Not you, but me!
Did you catch that? Did you hear the spike in the audio? Like, clearly, like, they didn't, like, and I'm so glad they used that take. Martin Scorsese says it's more important to, like, the emotion that you feel than it is for, like if, for example, something's out of focus or the audio spikes, it's just like, just use it. Because I think it spiked and they weren't ready for it.
Yeah, it definitely spiked. I thought that was just my headphones, but now that you say that, I literally did.
Yeah.
That's funny. It almost took me out of the experience, but...
It was, the emotion was perfect, though.
Can't replace that acting.
Yeah.
Yep, Hugh Jackman. He's the man.
He is.
Huge, jacked man. We've got Clinton Westover, Dr. Clinton Westover on the podcast.
Children's clothes? Oh, I must have been in a hurry.
Yes. Right.
I love that exchange where they're looking at each other like, oh no, he knows I'm full of crap right now.
His shift in tone of speaking to him, just that moment where he was just like, he looked at him, he's like, he's not messing around
It went
anymore.
from a smile to like just that.
Yeah, just I'm about to kick in your door and smash your face into the wall.
We're just trying to close the door behind him. Right? Goodbye. Not so fast. Unreal. So, guys, today we are discussing Prisoners. This movie came out in 2013, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Coming off of his Dune movie, we wanted to discuss some more of our favorite Denis Villeneuve moments throughout the years. As written was Aaron Guzikowski. I like that name. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Hugh Jackman, Viola Davis, Melissa Leo, Maria Bello.
Our boy, the polka dot man.
Bello. Terrence Howard. Yeah, Paul Dano. I'm getting to him.
Paul Dano.
I love Paul Dano.
Which
Dylan
one's he?
Minetti.
He's
Paul Dano is the kid with the glasses.
that got the crap beat out of him.
Oh, I love him. He's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, he's going to
I
be the
heard
new
someone
Penguin.
complain that he's typecasted
Riddler.
as a character that's always whining, and that made me laugh. But I was like, there's so much more to it than just that. The fact that someone as weaselly and ugly as Paul Dano can get work in Hollywood gives me hope, dude. Anyway, Zoe Zoll, however you say that. Yeah, where's our boy? David Malkian, if I'm saying his name right. It's he's in Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie. He's the polka dot man and James Gunn's...
He's also in Blade Runner 2049. He's the guy that gets his throat like...
Is that right?
I don't remember that.
He was in Ant-Man. I remember him in Ant-Man. He's one of the Ant-Man crew. He's great. I love seeing him typecast.
He's also the
weird
creepy
eccentric friend.
guy that escaped Arkham Asylum, and the Batman grabs him and tries to interrogate him, and he's
in the
just
Dark Knight,
laughing.
Yes. I want to see him typecast in Jake Gyllenhaal's roles, where he's the handsome lead actor.
Oh, I said that wrong. It wasn't Batman. It was Two-Face interrogating him. The Batman
Two-Face, yeah.
said...
Yeah, Aaron Eckhart,
So you're not going to get anything out of him.
He's a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yes, I was hoping you'd do the Batman.
What do you
voice.
expect to learn from him? Yeah, it's great. So anyway, I see Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, and it's like, hey, I got to star alongside these handsome blokes? What a privilege.
And then when he shows up in
privilege.
Batman, Paul Dano, I'm excited for more Batman voices, Ty.
Oh, mind you, I totally wrote some funny notes here. Okay, real quick. Hugh Jackman, he was like, hey, no more riddles. He was literally talking to Paul Dano's character, and I'm like, did you ask no more riddles from the future Riddler? Anyone? I just thought that. Anyway, that's literally what he says. He's like, no more riddles. Tell me what I'm like, did they know? And then he literally is singing Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, which, again, I know the kids were singing it earlier, but it's just really cool that, like, literally Paul Dano, who's going to be the Riddler, is singing Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, make a mockery of Batman, who he's soon going to be playing opposite Robert Pattinson in the new Batman movie.
Oh, look at all these Easter eggs.
There's so many Easter eggs that Denis Villeneuve must have known. I'm just
I was
saying,
more
it's
thinking
crazy.
of him mocking the children that he had kidnapped, but yeah, that works too, Batman.
No, I said that, Cameron. It is a callback to the kids.
I'm aware.
I'm just saying how amazing is it that he became
Batman
the Riddler.
Inception.
Batman. It's like Denis Villeneuve called it. He's like, oh, you'll be the Riddler someday. It's like, how do you know? He's like, I just do. So, guys, this movie.
I bet
Prisoners,
Denny does have like a crystal ball and sees like all
he
things.
does, dude. He's like, yeah. He's like, I promise you, if you star in my movie, you will be famous forever.
Immortalized.
Looking at you, Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. Yeah, like again, most people knew Amy Adams, but Jeremy Renner, not as a frontman name, even though he had starred in movies like 28 Weeks Later
and Avengers.
You know, even Hawkeye. But yeah, but even then, it's like not quite there. Like even Chris Evans, some people are like, oh, it's Captain America. Has he superseded the role? Yes. If you watch Bong Joon-ho's
Snowpiercer
the train
stinks.
movie, what's it called? Snowpiercer. That's an amazing performance from Chris Evans, and now he's a household name in my book.
It is a good performance by him.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
his best performance ever is the old Fantastic Four.
I knew you'd see it my way, Cameron. Otherwise, you're off the pod.
I watched that recently. It's no good, Cameron. It's no good.
It's so bad. But blonde,
so bad.
blonde Jessica Alba is my wife.
So we should do what not Scott Pilgrim. Edgar Wright did in Shaun of the Dead. Dogs can't look up. We should start making up fake like facts about things. Like Denis Villeneuve, he gave Ryan Gosling his first star role in Blade Runner 2049.
Oh,
Was that a joke? Because it's wait. Okay, I'm confused now.
Exactly. I'm stirring the pot.
Did you say Ryan Reynolds or did you say Ryan Gosling? Oh, you said Ryan Gosling.
I thought it said Gosling.
you said Gosling.
Oh, you probably did. See, I'm confused now. Okay. So you're saying
the Free Guy was also directed by Denis Villeneuve.
Dude, we mess up so many times. I listened to the podcast once after they come out, and I'm always like, oh.
You said Paul Dano was in Zodiac.
I did. Well, I actually thought it was him for a while. I actually did for the longest time. I thought that was one of the victims, but it's not him. And then there are so many other facts that, like, and again, that's just because I honestly thought it was my mistake.
Yeah.
Anyway, can we talk about
let's get into this movie. Sorry,
Gosh.
We're wasting all this precious time for Prisoners.
Talking about stupid no one cares about. I want to hear about Prisoners.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Oh, I'm so sorry I've wasted your time. Let's get right into the podcast before my other co-hosts beat me.
You can talk about all your other. I can talk about all your errors at a different time.
Errors and omissions. I got plenty to make here, guys. All right, so this movie came out in 2013, and let's get into what was it like watching it for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast. Why don't we start with you, Jordan?
The first time? Okay, so sadly, amongst the masterpieces, this one, like No Country for Old Men and Wolf of Wall Street, did not quite grip me. I was falling asleep, and I was like, this is so boring. And I know, it's so sad. And now I've seen it, and it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. That happens a lot.
But he won't say that because he knows that it's going to be in my top 10 because he's a little cheating monkey.
It's always been in my top 10. So, after the second time I watched it, of course. But it wasn't until I watched Arrival, then I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to study all this guy's other work. And that's when I just fell in love with this movie. Because as a detective, I would be a horrible, horrible detective. Such a masterpiece. This movie is amazing. Like, talk about, like, I got teary-eyed and emotional just because of how much I was like, cinema's not dead. Like, Denis Villeneuve is keeping cinema alive. I love his movies. I just think they're so perfect. And what I was getting at earlier is the fact that I'm really bad when it comes to detective movies because I can't catch all the little details the first time. I have to like rewatch it over and over. So, like I said, in real life, I would be a horrible detective because they're just the little tiny things I never caught. Like, this is going to sound so embarrassing, but when Jake Gyllenhaal kicked open the door because he thought that guy was like hurt or something, I actually thought he was dead. And I didn't catch the part where he like looked at the bottle of alcohol and he realized he was just drunk and passed out, and I couldn't hear him snoring. So I didn't realize that like that was like a very...
Who killed the priest?
Yeah, I was like, oh shoot, the priest is dead. And then when he dragged the guy over to the thing and he's like, who's down there? I'm like, who is that guy?
Who is this other person he found in the house? That's
I know. That's so embarrassing. Like I just couldn't follow this movie because the director treats you like a smart person, and I am clearly not.
And I'm no dummy. I've been going to high school for 7 years.
I know, but because afterwards I like grew such an appreciation for it that he didn't treat us so dumb, even though I am. But I'm glad he didn't, because then it's such a better rewatch, because then I can catch all the little the little things that make this film so much better.
Funny how the priest is the only one in the household.
What?
I thought he was a...
Yeah, he is a...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, he's on the offender list. He said he's going to go check out the 7th offenders in the area. That's why he went to the priest's house.
Denis Villeneuve, once again, throwing more shade at the Catholic Church. But that being said, what I really like about this movie is it is an attack on religion and faith, right? They literally are waging a war against God, the villains in this movie. So very interesting. I want to talk to you guys about that. Just don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. No, because we're still talking about our experience.
I know how this thing works. You and Gray are the exact same. You guys like to throw out I like this, but that's not one of the things I like.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. But that's just one thing I just want to throw out.
But I just want to throw out these other 7 things.
Okay, Mr. Okay. Cameron, how about you, man? What was it like watching it for the first time, rewatching it for the pod?
I'm pretty sure the first time I watched this was with Jordan. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure it was during the Great Awakening, and I can't remember. I think this was after Nightcrawler. I don't know. I was just
Cameron's foray into discovering film. It's just every time you call it the Great Awakening, it's like, wait, what? What happened? The Great Awakening?
Sorry, Ty. I'm assuming that our listeners are intelligent.
Okay. Yeah. Cameron's personal foray into everyone should know about this by now. I just think it's funny. That's all. I think it's great. Keep calling it that, Cameron. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so I think I watched it. It was just kind of when I was on the Jake Gyllenhaal binge after Jordan had showed me, I think, Zodiac and Nightcrawler, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I need more of him. And man, holy cow. Does he look like a stud in this movie? I usually don't like that haircut, but man, he freaking pulls off. Anyway, watching it first time, I was just like, oh my gosh, just in awe. Because it was another one of those Inglourious movie where I'm like, I don't understand why I loved that so much, but I did. I'm like it's hard to pin exactly why I love that so much. And then I was kind of nervous watching it for a second time, especially because it was number 10 for me. And I watched it for the second time, and I was kind of like a little underwhelmed because I think I'd built it up in my head. And I was like, I don't know if it's as good as I thought it was. And then rewatching for the pod for my third time, I was like, holy fudge, this is better than the first and second time. And I picked up on so many more clues, and I was like, it bumped up to, it's now my number 5 film of all time. Or number 6. No, number 5. Number 5.
If you solve the maze, you can go free. So how about you, Clinton? What was it like watching it for the first time, rewatching it for the podcast?
I watched it with Jordan and Alex first time I watched it.
And we did a double feature. We saw that we watched it the next night. But
we watched it and Searching, I think was the other one. So we were watching all these kidnapping
children kidnapping movies.
So afterwards,
it's a lot for a parent in one night.
Yeah, afterwards I was like, oh, this is a little too much. I need to hug my kids for a little while. Watching it for the podcast was really good. Same thing. Actually, afterwards, I printed off some stuff from the FBI of how to prevent child abduction, and I went over it with Hazel the next day.
Good, as you should. Give her some bear mace or whatever. Give her some pepper spray. Spray anyone that comes near you that ain't mom and dad.
That's right.
Brilliant. I would say
I'm not worried about Hazel one bit. That girl can stand her own.
Yeah, I know. She already knew all of it, but it was mostly for me.
Yeah, Hazel's the type that it's like the ending in Wrong Turn where the car's driving off, the kidnappers, and then the car starts veering off the road and slams into a tree, and then Hazel comes out.
Covered in blood.
Double the swords.
Yeah, just killing everybody.
Killed everyone in there. That's brilliant, dude. So rewatching Prisoner. So I watched it the first time. I think it was a movie that Jordan had showed me. So I watched it with my wife. It was my wife and I. I think we watched it at college, right, Jordan? And you came over.
Yeah, that's right.
Prisoners.
I did watch it with you guys. I watched it. Was the first time with all 3 of you. That's so funny.
Yeah, Jordan was pushing this movie. Did you see it for the first time with me, Jordan, or not?
Yeah. I remember because your wife was stressing out so much when he was driving the car and his eyes were getting blood in his eyes.
I was so stressed with that first time too.
To get ready to faint, yeah. And it was really stressful. And so it was fun because Jordan and I had found Denis Villeneuve's movie. Was it Blade Runner that was coming out? That's why we saw Prisoners?
Well, I watched Arrival 3 times in the theater, and that's when I'm like, I need to see it.
All right, yes. Yeah. That's exactly when we watched this, because we watched Arrival, loved it, watched his other work, and that's when we watched Prisoners. So I loved Prisoners the first time. The noir element of this movie is really great. The drama is really effective. And I would say on rewatch, I was really hesitant to watch this movie again because I loved my first viewing, but I was concerned that knowing the twist, all the twists, this movie leaves such an impact. I didn't forget anything.
Yeah, and talk about doing a twist right, not being the Joker where it's like, oh, remember, this is the crazy twist that he was, not dating this girl all along. It's the same thing with this movie. It's it's not like an M. Night Shyamalan, in your face twist,
Now that even being said,
I thought
the
so.
interface. Yeah, but like it's like who the characters are, who's the bad person, like those, like who
Oh,
done
I
it.
thought you were talking about the fact that the kid he was torturing was actually one of the boys.
That's
kidnapped.
one of them, obviously.
Yeah,
but
well,
then
there's a
also
lot,
the aunt. You know, she's large. She's the
well,
one that did all this, right?
Yeah.
She orchestrated all this, kidnapping the kids and stuff. What I thought was really interesting, and then also the person that died in the basement
Was
was
the husband.
Her husband.
I forgot
Yes,
about
again,
that.
That was cool.
I remembered all of that. See, but again, I didn't forget. But what I wanted to say was, on rewatch, I am impressed with how well this movie held up. Because even though I knew all the twists, this movie stands on its own as a dramatic piece. Like the performances in this by Gyllenhaal and particularly by Hugh Jackman are unbelievably good.
Yes.
Viola
Yeah.
Davis again takes the cake at a few scenes. I'm just so impressed with the drama because if your drama doesn't hold up, I actually think this movie would have failed on rewatch, like fundamentally, because I still remembered all the twists because this is such a perfectly crafted story. This is a great, like, if I could only dream of writing like a detective story like this. I think it's such a well-told story where your heart, it plays like. Greatest twist for me as a kid growing up reading Harry Potter, you know, Severus Snape. I don't want to spoil Harry Potter for anyone, but best double agent of all time. So if you haven't read Harry Potter,
I don't want to
you'll
spoil
learn.
it, but I'm going to.
But I'm going
Also,
to. Yeah.
if that's a spoiler to you, you're actually a disgrace to humankind.
We
so.
I need to have a
Exactly.
chart like how many things movies Ty spoils per episode. I think you just spoiled 3 movies already, Ty, in this just in the first 20 minutes of this episode.
What other movies did
You
I
just
spoil?
spoiled Wrong Turn. You just spoiled that one, and I'm pretty sure there was another one in there somewhere.
Wrong Turn. Okay, if I spoiled Wrong Turn,
You just
ending for you,
did.
that's the after
You
credits.
literally said the ending, the biggest, most exciting moment of the movie.
Not the most exciting.
Yes, it was. You even said you're like,
I'm a blind caveman. That's pretty scary. That's a
oh,
great
brother.
one.
That's
So I would argue that yes, I spoil things, but too many years too late. So I still don't spoil fresh new things. Like we'll talk about Midnight Soho and we'll spoil all that in a second. But I think this movie really holds up because of the drama. The drama is so well done in this movie. Hugh Jackman's performance is incredible. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance is incredible. It's unmatched. I don't think I'm not gonna shy away. I cried 4 times watching this movie. 4 separate times.
That's like Jordan
during
numbers.
this movie on rewatch. Yeah, it's like Jordan numbers. I admit it in this movie
I did
because
too.
this movie
Like
merits
when
it.
the
It's very
dad
powerful.
falls down on his knees, Ty, like when he's at the place with all the candles, that makes me cry. And remember when he just realizes after torturing that kid, the black guy, and he's like falls to his knees when he's with his wife and daughter.
Yes,
That gets
I remember
me.
that. Yes,
And then-
that actually didn't get me.
Oh, really? And then
No,
the
no,
second one
but
was him looking at the photos, and then he sees the photo of the
Sock.
sock. That didn't get you? That got me.
Yes, so that is one of my 4 scenes. Yes,
Oh.
when he identifies the sock, he's like, "That's hers." That freaks me out because I don't know. Denis Villeneuve, I'm sure. I don't know if he has kids, but like those are the kinds of moments that every parent would just dread. Like I can't talk about it too much. I'm going to start getting emotional now. That would be the most horrifying thing, having to go in and identify articles of clothing or something missing from your child.
Yeah,
That's too much to
I
think
doubt
about.
the
can't-
director has kids. He probably just buys kids' clothes and puts blood all over them.
I like the misdirects again, knowing the information because I love seeing like, oh, it's unbelievable.
second.
Because the first time I watched this movie, I didn't catch it. So anyway, I love to rewatch. I was very impressed. Very good dramatic roles, everything. So
Well, going into our favorite things, Ty's already done his too.
have I really done my favorite too? Just the dramatic performances. I was just impressed that a movie held up. But yes,
And the twists and
I'll
turns.
let that be my favorite. The dramatic performances are absolutely incredible. So
Okay,
that-
could I
the
do
performance-
mine?
Yeah.
You do yours, yeah. Because
So
Takes the
some of
cake.
my favorite things are I love how they add the religious element. Every time someone's about to do something like really terrible, they always have on the radio like some like preacher preaching the gospel and repentance and how to fix it.
or they start praying, right? They
Yeah,
start,
they're
"Our
praying.
Father, that art in
yeah.
heaven," yeah.
So they just really hammer down on the whole like losing your faith and the war on religion and I thought that was really good. The things that make you lose your faith.
Yes.
Which ties into my second favorite thing. I love the moral questioning, like if I knew somebody had my daughter somewhere, could I like capture them and torture them? And like, is that right or wrong? And just based on his character, he knew. The guy admitted to his face, like, they only cried when I left them. And he's like, what did you just
They
say?
didn't cry until I left him, I
Yeah.
think is what he said.
Yeah. So
Which is sad when you know what he's talking about. Because
Yeah.
you're like, he was actually a friend.
It's
to the
such a
kid.
different movie the second viewing. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, and then like you guys were saying, that he was singing the same songs that the kids were singing, and like he knew
Picks
that
up his dog and nearly strangles it, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, that was the first time I watched that. I was with Jordan, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, he's the killer. I don't give a fudge."
Guilty.
Yeah, kill him.
I know.
And it's so sad when you find out he's a victim because you're like, this is all he's ever known in his life.
Yeah, literally the title means like that kid was a prisoner his whole life. And so 7 days of torture is nothing because he was tortured his entire life, you know?
Yeah.
They just kept drugging him.
Yeah. So if you knew that
Daddy
someone had your
remembers
daughter.
his real name, she said. So terrifying. So terrifying. That purple Kool-Aid. Don't drink the purple drink!
Oh my gosh.
The 2-liter bottle of soda.
But what do you guys think? Is it okay to torture someone and like harass them if you
Absolutely.
know? Right?
Yeah, see-
Like, isn't it kind of your job, like, if you know that they did it to, like, save your daughter? I don't know. Like, I was just surprised that I took such a strong stance. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Well, I would probably start to
Hugh
question
Jackman.
my own sanity because that people are asking, like, is that just what you wanted to hear or did you actually hear that? And I'd be like, I would probably question myself, like, maybe I just wanted to hear it, you know, because I wanted him to be the guy.
Oh, like how Jake Gyllenhaal was like, are you sure that's what he said?
Yeah, the only one that heard it.
Yeah,
The only
see-
one that heard it, yeah. Can anyone else
You
corroborate?
know what I kind of wish is I wish like I don't know like it's one of my favorite scenes, but I almost wish that we didn't see that because then you would question like, did he hear it? Like, or is he making
No,
that shit
but
up?
how he went about it though was perfect. Just like whispered it.
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
to him.
No.
Because the first time I saw it, I had to rewind it. I was like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
What did he just say?
I didn't even
Yeah.
catch it.
That is.
Well, it's intense. He grabs him, hits his head against the car, and he's like, tell me, like, where my daughters are. And he's like, they didn't cry until they left. You're like, what?
And then he's like,
What did he say? Yeah.
then a
And then
bunch of
every,
cops
like,
are pulling off.
six cops
have to grab him.
6 or 7 cops, which is the most realistic pulling some guy off of someone
Yes.
before, because they always show in movies where they pretend to be restrained by
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 guys. There's like 6 men pulling huge Jackman.
Yeah.
Huge Jackman away from him. I keep calling him Huge Jackman because I think it's funny.
Yes.
Hugh Jackman away from Paul Dano's character, from preventing him from strangling him further or slamming his head against the car again. So,
so
very
good.
believable. How about you, Jordan? 2 of your favorite things.
Ooh,
And Clinton, we're going to address your question. I like that that's your question that you pose. Like, is it right? I said absolutely, almost as a
Well, no,
joke,
okay,
but-
so I saw an interview with Denis Villeneuve, and he said so much of this, like, horrible stuff is going on in other countries all the time. And so he just said he'd like to put somebody who was strong morals, strong this, like, thinking that they wouldn't do anything like that, but then put in extraordinary situation where, you know, other people from other countries have to go through, like, make life and death situations all the time. And it's just, like, at least in, like, really horrible countries
Yeah,
where
like
bad
Middle
things
East
are going on.
and shiz, like,
Yeah,
like civil
like-
wars and shiz where you have to
where
like,
they lose their parents and kids are out in the street, making
yeah, and they're
decisions
saying
that
like,
are
oh,
just-
kill this person or we'll kill your family, and you're like, oh,
yeah, like you see kids with machine guns like
Yeah.
driving around in cars, like it's just kind of a person. The only reason we're not in those situations is because of, you know, how our country is established. So it's really cool to see this extraordinary situation, a guy with all these standards and stuff put in that kind of a situation. It's like, what would we do? I mean, I'd like to think that I wouldn't take a kid and torture him, especially because, I mean, I love also I don't know if you call it moral ambiguity, but the idea that we listen to a bunch of podcasts about murders and stuff, mysteries and stuff, Up and Vanished. Like, I remember listening to people sending in voice recordings to him because the case wasn't solved. And people were like, he is guilty. He is the one. Like, we need to lock this guy up. We need to like kill him. That's why angry mobs terrify me to death, because they'll end up killing the wrong person. And it turns out that guy wasn't the guilty guy. It's just, he just seemed like the guilty one. So that's why I love this movie.
he was partially guilty. He did kidnap the children.
Well, no. He just said he invited them to
he-
play in the car. The lady even said at the end, she's like, he didn't want to take her.
But then he brought them back to the house, and then she said, I was the one that decided that they stay.
So she kidnapped him.
He deserved to get.
Cameron, you keep saying that he could. I still think it's her, though, right?
yeah,
I mean,
she kidnapped him, Cameron.
This guy is
Okay,
drugged.
Okay, it's still...
Kidnappee.
He just said he wanted to play with them. And he even
the
said that.
the chicken or the egg. This is actually a kidnapped kid kidnapping other kids. I don't know. It's kidnapception, Cameron.
Okay, just... I'm not
I'm
saying...
with Cameron. He totally took the kids. He's responsible
if
for
he
them.
would not have taken those kids for a ride, would she have ever gotten those kids? No. So, like, I understand that he's not in the same frame of mind, and so he's not like equally as accountable. But homie is still an accomplice 100%.
Homies.
He
I
knew
thought
what
she
was
was
going
with him.
on,
I
and he
thought
wouldn't
she
tell
was with him.
anybody.
I actually didn't
was.
catch that. I thought she was with them
She-
in the RV.
No.
Oh.
She said
No, she
she said he just took them for a ride. She said, but when he brought him home, I was the one that decided that they should stay. So he probably just
Brilliant.
brought him home, said like, Mom, look, I have some new friends with his like 10-year-old IQ, and then she's like, okay, no, 2 new prospects. Ugh.
But he hid that from everybody.
Yeah, he could have said that. God bless.
Could he have, though? Because honestly, I'm not sure he knew what year it was. Like, the guy was drugged out of his mind. He couldn't even remember his own true name. Like, why wouldn't he go to the police and be like, I'm a kidnapped person? Like, my aunt
Because he's been
kidnapped me
probably
years
so
ago.
abused and emotionally abused. where
Right,
she-
so you guys are saying, oh, but he could have done that. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
okay, you guys are acting like just because he isn't at the same level of like accountability, like doesn't make him not responsible at all. You can't just give him the free pass.
I don't know.
I feel like if you can't even as an adult escape the woman that kidnapped you as a kid, like, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
he doesn't know where else to go. He had a child's mind. So does he know the difference from right and wrong? I don't think he does.
He needs to be put in a mental hospital for the for psychopaths.
Yeah.
Ty, Elizabeth
That makes
Smart,
him-
Ty actually like saw a cop, and a cop asked her like, "Hey, like when she was kidnapped and stuff," and they were in a mart together. Or sorry, that he saw her at a mart, and he's like, "You look familiar. Are you okay?" And she looked at him and said, "I'm fine." And she could have right there and then said like, "These are the people that kidnapped me," but it's like they were so brainwashed. So I'm sorry, Cameron. I'm kind of on the side.
Terrified that you'd be caught in the lie, too.
No, that was the Salt Lake Public Library, and she was
Oh.
afraid. He was threatening that if she told anybody that her abductor would kill her family.
Oh, would kill the family.
Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
she would be like, I'm not going to tell because you've been threatened at this point.
Oh, I thought it was because she was so brainwashed. Okay.
Yeah. But, again, threatened,
Fake
brainwashed.
news.
Fake news. Yeah, Jordan. Nice work, Jordan. Just tell
I
part of
know.
the
I
facts.
am. I'm throwing up fake news. Okay.
No,
Maybe we
I
have the
just read
doctor
her
to set
book.
the
That's
record
the only
straight.
reason I know.
So, Clinton, what are your thoughts on COVID-19?
Anyway.
Should I take the vax? Should my 3-year-old take
Oh
the
my
vax?
gosh.
All right. So, Karen, what were you saying?
Well, no, isn't it Jordan still has one more?
I don't know, Jordan. Do you have one more? Do you have one more in
Well,
you, kid, Jordan?
I don't even think I said one. Did I say one? We've just been Ty's been taking up on all.
You've
of them.
been saying so many guys.
No, it's definitely been you, Jordan. Yeah.
What
you
did I
have
even
it.
say? I don't remember
You
my
said the
first
moral
one.
Well,
ambiguity.
no one was listening to you. Yeah. Oh, what?
Moral ambiguity.
moral
I guess.
ambiguity.
I don't know. Was
You
that
don't
my
know.
one?
You're on the team all the time.
Okay.
Let me just say all
well,
these
no.
things
Okay.
that
So
I
what
think is
I
really
wanted to
good.
say is all the little details. Like I love film noir films. This is
little
definitely in my
bits.
top. Yeah, the little bits.
Little deets.
And
The little things.
all the little details.
The little things.
I love film noir. I love Blade Runner 2049. I love this. I love Manhunter. Just very slow
Wait,
pace.
your second favorite thing about this movie is you love Manhunter, that you love Denis
No,
Villeneuve's
he's
other
saying
movies.
he loves noir.
No, that I just said. Like for example, the
Shush,
the
Ty.
little
My favorite
necklace,
thing about
Josh!
Prisoners is the movie Arrival.
the necklace that he had and stuff. Just that in the photo, seeing that, I love when and you can just see that science. I mean, that look he has. He's like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I missed that detail, and I just love it. Jake Gyllenhaal, man. Ty, going along with Ty, the performances are amazing. That's all I'll say.
All you'll say
That's all-
after
that's all
you
I'm
say
saying.
4 things.
Interesting. Hey, Cameron, why don't you have the Bear Pickens?
Why am I the only one who ever says just 2 things? What the fudge?
Because there's 15,000 things that make this movie a masterpiece.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, Cameron, calm
We'll
down.
wait until after I say my at least 2 things. Okay, well, one.
Clinton was saying something, Cameron. 1 second. What did you say, Clinton?
Oh, just building off his noir thing. I don't want to steal Cameron's 2 things. Well, I'll say it after he does
Oh,
his
yeah.
2.
We'll say it after Cameron
Thank
gets
you,
a chance
Clinton,
to.
for being respectful. So my favorite thing about this film is just the overall theme of the word prisoners is because everyone is in some way, shape, or form a prisoner. Because
Yes.
the mom's a prisoner of her own mind because she sees that she has to take the pills and that she's like not willing to accept reality. You see Hugh Jackman's a prisoner of his own life and how he doesn't rebuild his father's old house because his dad killed himself. And so clearly he still hasn't gotten over that. And so it comes out in his like rage when he can't control his family, because that's what he does, because his dad killed himself, and so it affected his life, and so he did everything in his power to have a controlled family life, and so when he loses that control...
What YouTube video did you pull this from, Cameron?
It's called Reading Psychology 101, Jordan. Yeah, seriously. Cameron, keep going with your psychology here. I love it.
Gosh, you're literal cancer. I hate you guys so much.
Wait, what? I was defending you.
Ty was defending you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
just
I made a joke. All right, keep going.
anyway.
So my second favorite thing would be the movie Arrival. When
And I also
Keep going, Cameron.
And I liked how what's it called? Jake Gyllenhaal. He's like a prisoner to the case because that's why at first the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, it's not really believable. Why is Jake Gyllenhaal just chilling at the site of the crew is like excavating? I'm like, why is he there? Like, he solved the case. But it's just like a tribute to his character. Like, he is the person where he's like, until every stone is unturned, he's not satisfied. And Hugh Jackman is still that missing piece.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I need to figure out where he is, because he's not satisfied because he's too smart to be like, he ran away. He's like, no, this meant too much to him for him to run away. He would rather probably face prison. And that's the funny thing is, like, he would probably...
Or face death.
She's going to need her father
Yeah.
when she's found.
And that's the thing, too, is that
so good.
when he eventually is most likely found, which there is a cut they made just in case that has them finding Hugh Jackman. Like, he looks down the hole and sees Hugh Jackman. They filmed it just in case. They always were originally, like, the script and everything had it to where they didn't find him. Or they just, like, left it ambiguous. But they filmed it just in case, like, audience reaction was really bad. And so I just love how, like...
Yeah, like a Frenchman, dude. That movie could have just ended. I feel like they would have been happy being like, oh, Hugh Jackman didn't get out, you know. But I think it's great.
And so I love kind of, like, the ambiguity. And, like... And you see how Jake what's his name?
Detective Loki.
Paul Dano, he is even a prisoner of his own life, and then the wife is a prisoner because, and then even her husband who was killed was held prisoner before being killed, which is ironic because he held so many kids prisoner. I just love the overall theme of just how you see everyone's different, like, levels of being a prisoner.
Listen, but I certainly never killed any of them, so I had the moral superiority to murder this guy in my basement.
Yeah.
What a stand-up priest, man.
I know, that was
Good on you, man, because then you ended up murdering someone.
Yeah.
Good on you, mate. What a character.
And then,
jeez.
yeah, like, I mean, you guys already touched on the performances, but I almost want to retouch on, what's it called, what Clifton said.
Oh, sorry. What?
So how many things, Cameron, is this now? Are we going into 2, 3 things, 4? You just want to take the rest of them. Got it. Okay.
I'm just repeating what Clinton said I just loved how the moral ambiguity of the film of, like, even like that situation that you were talking about, I don't remember Ty or Jordan, of like a priest who he literally like, but he's like, whoa, you're killing children and like being proud of it? What's wrong with you? Like, I'm going to kill you. So it's just weird and crazy how where everyone draws their line of like morality. Same with Hugh Jackman had a different line of morality than the black dad did, because you could see him, he was way less like he was super uncomfortable. And then
also,
the mom was just like
goes to his wife and complains.
And then,
I can't believe I did this stuff. What a loser.
And then the wife.
No wonder they didn't let him act in the other Iron Man movies and gave it to Don Cheadle. He's a better man. What's his name? War Machine. He's a better War Machine.
I know his wife was more.
Yeah, she was more on board. She's like, don't. And I'm like,
she's like, yeah, don't let him go. Don't let him go. It's like, holy shit, what woman did I marry?
She thinks she has like the loophole, because she's like, we're not going to do it to him, but we're not going to stop him. And you're like,
which is bull crap, because it's the same thing.
You're still as accountable. And still
but see, that's the prisoner aspect of it, right? Where it's like she has to tell herself that lie, even though it's a complete fabricated lie.
Yeah, it's amazing what people do to justify things.
Would you say it's a noble lie, Ty?
Yeah, it's the noble lie. She's like, we're not going to tell anyone else about this, but
we're not going to torture him ourselves.
They're going to find out.
And then she fucking unties him. What, talking about the dumbest captor ever?
Well, she just showed up there. She didn't know that he was a dangerous person. Yeah, you're right. It was really dumb. I think she was like, I'll appeal to his better nature. And then you realize this guy doesn't have any, like, he's desperate. He ends up like hitting her and then hitting the glass window. He's like, I just have to get out of here.
Oh,
like,
in that scene when he's gripping that glass. Oh.
You mean holding the glass and squeezing his hand and it's cutting into his fingers?
Yeah, gripping the glass.
Or when he slices that, who did he slice at? Was it
Hugh
Jackman, yeah.
Yeah. Can't remember if he cuts him and, again, gets his knuckles bruised and bloodied, man, beating him to a pulp. Man, yeah, that was the other scene where I cried, when they pulled the bag off his head and revealed Paul Dano's face. Even if, at that moment, again, that's a rewatch. I don't remember if I cried the first time, because I was like, oh, that's really horrifying. But I'm like, but if you did kidnap those kids,
yeah,
dead,
that's the first time I just felt scummy and gross. Like, I'm like, everybody's kind of like turned into these monsters of...
It's so tragic, and that's why I love this movie, because in the end, the protagonist and antagonist aren't who you think they are. The protagonist is Hugh Jackman, and the antagonist is Detective Loki. They're fundamentally opposed to each other because...
You mean the reverse, Ty?
So you think the antagonist is Loki?
Loki is 100% the protagonist. You said
Loki is totally the protagonist in this.
If you don't think that, you're high.
I'm with Cameron.
I don't think it is. I mean, you start the movie off with Hugh Jackman and his family getting kidnapped. So you think Loki is the main character of this movie?
Loki is the only redeemable character. Like, he's the only one who...
No. So you guys are confusing not all protagonists are good people.
No, but he's the hero.
Yeah.
I don't care about hero. It's the journey, right? So the journey, I think Hugh Jackman is.
Isn't it called A Hero's Journey, Ty?
Yeah.
No, but you can be an anti-hero. Like, tell me, okay, Walter White, right? Breaking Bad. He is the protagonist, even though he's a very deplorable human being. I would be interested to hear that discussion from you guys. I think that you're right. I think that the moral high ground comes from Loki because ultimately he stands for ultimate good. However, he does lose his cool one time, which we can talk about, which is totally not cool, when he starts interrogating the other guy, the mimic in the room, and the other cops come in.
He starts to show his colors a few times.
Yeah, I mean, freak.
Smashing the keyboard.
What's amazing to me is Loki. Like, I think it's a great name for him, even though it's kind of almost silly, where you're like, the god of mischief. Like, why would they give him Loki? Like, is that a name he chose for himself? He's got some tattoos. He's had, like, a really troubled past. He grew up as a youth in an orphanage or something like that, right? It was alluded to.
Yeah.
He mentions it.
Yeah, he's like the boys' home or whatever. He's like, Father, you know I went there, so you know what I can do.
Right. And so he went through a very troubled past. What's amazing is, what I didn't understand is, he says that he's never not solved the case.
That's amazing.
And the guy that's over him, his superior, is a super big to him. And I never understood that. I'm like, if he solves all his cases, why is he such a to him? And I never could figure that out.
I think he just doesn't approve of his methods.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think Jake Gyllenhaal's a lot of the ends justify the means, which is kind of ironic why he has to take down Hugh Jackman, who is a very ends justify the means of saving the daughter.
Which is interesting because in the end, I wanted to talk to you guys about that. We kept talking about...
He breaks in, he does a lot of B&E.
Yes, I was going to say, he breaks in to
a couple
apartments
times.
Several times. He even asks the drunken, passed out father, like, you mind if I look around? Again, not actually getting verbal consent from him. He's passed out.
Yeah.
But again, it's very interesting because, like you said, the ends justify the means. Because ultimately, like, there's a scene where he ends up losing it and becomes unhinged, and he's interrogating the guy. The cops pull him off of him because he starts actually abusing their victim. Now, that is a no-no. That is talk about suspension, possibly removal from the force. You can't physically harm someone that's in a holding cell. You can't do that.
I forget he shoots himself every time I watch it.
Yeah, and then he only gets a gun from the other cop as they try to pull Jake Gyllenhaal off of him. So, again, everyone has this moral thing. So anyway, real quick, though, the reason I think that Hugh Jackman is the protagonist is because fundamentally, Hugh Jackman is faced with this opportunity. He has a son. He's very religious at the beginning, and he's like, you always be prepared for the worst. Expect the best, or what was it? Prepare for the worst, hope for the best? No, I'm just saying, the way he said it. He said, prepare for the best, hope for the worst.
Cameron's always the one
You guys butcher that every time. It's pray for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Thank you. Which is very interesting because, again, pray, all the symbolism to religion.
I was just thinking, in the whole movie, I love how Jake Gyllenhaal is just throwing himself into these incredibly dangerous situations. Like, he's all by himself. He's, like, visiting all these... He's climbing into basements with dead people. He's, like...
He jumps down there with no regard.
And he's opening boxes with snakes crawling around his feet. And he's like, I don't care. I got to save this girl who might not even be in one of these boxes. Like,
he's the detective you want.
His character is so cool.
He literally gets shot. Yeah.
He gets shot. Yeah. He's just so cool. Like,
dude.
So
cool.
Cool.
See, that's why I think Ty. He's the protagonist, and the antagonist is the aunt, because she even says, like, because she essentially represents everything that's evil, and she's waging to, like, destroy everyone's faith, and he is doing everything he can to keep people's faith.
I still feel like Jake Gyllenhaal is more diametrically opposed to Hugh Jackman, because remember, he's like, why were you telling me? The whole moral quandary comes from, why are you investigating me? Like, why is it wrong that I search for my daughter, and it's right the way you search for my daughter? Does that make sense?
I loved watching it with you and Alex because I don't remember if it was in the scene where he's like in the car talking to Hugh Jackman or if it was at the end of the movie.
It was right before when he's watching Hugh Jackman like from the parking lot trying to track him to where he was going. Yeah.
Yes. You were like, he is so awesome or so cool. It was so funny.
Because he had that twitch. Like
blink,
that's right. He's
blink.
blinking.
He blinks.
Yeah.
Forcibly blinks, yeah. We all know someone like that.
Which is so hard to pull off because usually when actors do that weird forcible blinking, it just looks so fake. But he pulled it off so well.
Oh, so good.
And his tattoos on his knuckles, I don't know if you noticed it, they say maze, which is kind of cool.
Oh.
Really? But in a different language, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't English,
Yeah,
was
well,
it?
it's like weird looking to where it's like it doesn't look like it's exactly maize. I don't know if it's a different language, but it looks like M
Right.
looking A-ish and then like kind of like a Z-ish and then an E.
Wait, is this conjecture at this point, or do you know for sure? 'Cause you're like, hey, it would be really cool if it said maize, but maybe it does, yeah. I'm curious.
Any last thoughts, or do you want to share what you've seen lately, Clinton, before you go?
Let's see, what have I seen? I watched Vampire Sucks. I was telling Jordan on Friday. It's like
Oh, gosh,
the Twilight spoof. It was so terrible, but it had us rolling in a couple parts. It was really funny.
I will say, the commercial showed a scene in which they're like, takeout is here. They have like some guy bring some Asian food, and they grab the delivery boy and throw him in, and they all eat him or suck his blood. I thought that was a pretty funny gag where you have a delivery boy come bring food to your home, and you just suck his blood, and become a vampire.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really work. The gig would be up after the first try because it's like, wait, where did our delivery guy go? Oh, well, this is the last address he went to. Anyway, just saying.
Yep,
It made me laugh though because.
Ordered Asian food, yeah.
Yeah, and they like grab the delivery guy and throw him in the house. I thought that was really funny. I just remember seeing that from the trailer. Never saw the movie, so is it worth it?
Is it worth it? I think it's only worth it if you like Twilight, which Alex and I both like Twilight. So
you like Twilight? So this was a funny spoof then, if you like the movie, or
yeah, because
I always feel like if you like Twilight and hold it in reverence, this would probably not be the movie to watch then.
No, because Twilight itself is ridiculous, but somehow funny.
CGI baby, the demon baby.
Yeah, the demon baby. There's so many weird things about it that's actually kind of funny to watch, but at the same time, you're like into it. And like it's kind of
the part that had me laughing so hard was when he's punching the guy in the wheelchair. For some reason, I thought that was hilarious. I don't know why.
I like
thinks violence toward handicapped people is a funny laughing matter. So everybody, go take up your disabled grandma, punch her in the face.
Anything you're looking forward to, Clinton?
I am looking forward to watching Free Guy. I haven't seen Free Guy yet.
Heard great things about it. I actually have another friend of mine that was like, go see it. I'm like, okay.
fun.
Cameron said it's good. Yeah, I want to see it.
Well,
I love Taika Waititi.
I
and
just
everything
bought
he's
it,
been
so
in. Guy's freaking
you can
gold.
watch it.
He's not in it a lot.
Did you really?
YTT made that one?
No, he's just
No.
active
He's
in it.
he's in it, and I think I know what role he plays, but I don't want to say anything because I have a pretty strong idea that. Anyway,
He's not a super big
Very
role,
interesting.
but he plays.
it's
a
okay.
role.
I know.
It is
know.
more than what's it called? Than the pastor
Suicide Squad?
in Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh, or Suicide Squad. He's the
The father of the
dad.
rats.
Dad.
Ooh.
Hey, if rats have a purpose.
Ooh. And another movie I watched that was really good. Annabelle Comes Home. So good.
Oh,
Love
really?
that one.
Annabelle. Demonic doll possession.
No, because it's based on, you know, how the Warrens have that room full of all the like evil demonic stuff. Like it's all about that room and the house.
Ooh.
It's so awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
You guys need help.
It's really
I'll have
good.
to check it out.
Like, yeah,
fun.
it's almost as good as Annabelle
Creation.
Creation. Yeah.
Okay.
I need
right
to watch
on.
that one still.
James Wan, extended universe, cinematic universe goes on. Well, awesome. Clinton, do you have a social media presence you want people to be aware of?
I'm on Facebook. You could look at pictures of me and my family if you want.
And we'll try to stalk it, figure out where he is, stalk him, and take his
Yeah.
kids.
Oh my gosh.
It's great.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, prisoners. What are we talking about? Goodness gracious. Well, Clinton, Dr. Westover, it's great to have you on
We
here.
loved having you on, Clinton.
Hey, good night. Stay sweet.
Stay sweet. Vaccinate my eyeballs. I do like what you're saying, Cameron, because I did actually think the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, well, it's the aunt. Even though she's revealed, like she hides the secret that she hides it. But I still feel like, and I'd be interested to hear other things, because usually I do think that the antagonist is the one that is just diametrically opposed to everything that your protagonist is doing. So I assumed it was prisoners because his daughter gets kidnapped, and it's like, how do I get my daughter back? These are the means in which I get my daughter back. And then you have Loki, who is trying to do the same thing. He has the same goal, but he's fundamentally opposed to the way that Hugh Jackman is going about it, right? Torture it. Because Loki is very on to Hugh Jackman very quickly. He's like, don't you think it's a little suspicious that the suspect is missing or whatever? And he goes, well, don't you think that just means that he ran away or that he's guilty, right? It's like, they're really playing cat and mouse. This movie is like Light and L.
Yes.
And I think it is
Well, see,
Great
very much
comparison.
cat
And that's the
mouse
thing
like
that I think
yeah.
also helps Loki figure out that Hugh Jackman didn't run away is for the same reason that he didn't think that what's it called, Paul Dano had just run away. It's because he's like, that doesn't make sense. Like, there's too many things
Yes.
that laid it to where it makes sense more that you beat up a guy who disappeared a couple of days ago. Like, that's suspicious. Just like he thinks that like a dad who was so pursuing this thing just randomly runs away. I don't think so. So like I just think it also like makes it more believable, because holy cow, they did such a good job at showing freaking Detective Loki's background. So much show with no, like, don't tell. Like, he's eating freaking Thanksgiving dinner by himself at some Chinese restaurant. I'm like, right there, I was just like, oh, he would, like, you know so much about him without having to like know anything. And then like when they ask him, I love how it asks him too, and it says, I think he's divorced, or he had one of his kids kidnapped and murdered, and that's why he's so obsessive about these cases, because at first I always thought he didn't have kids.
Yeah,
but
Cameron,
then
interesting, because when she asked, do you have kids, detective? And he didn't answer her.
Yeah, he said,
I love that.
He said, I'm going to do everything I can to get your daughter back.
That's amazing. I didn't even think about that.
And it is interesting too, because the suggestion would be like, well, are you going to be empathetic enough to be like to search for my kids, right? Could you understand the pain? What I love about another scene where Loki is talking, when he goes investigates the aunt's house to look at Paul Dano's room, he finds the toy RV, which is really, I don't know why, it's just like a really great moment where you're like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah, and he pushes it in front of her.
He pushes the RV and it wheels right in front of her, and it's like, she's the one right there all along, and they're going to end up having a showdown. Now, actually, Cameron, I like what you were saying, and actually, I'm actually even willing to flip between Hugh Jackman and Loki, Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. I am willing to flip both protagonist and antagonist between the two of them. I really am, because at the end of the movie, yeah, I think Jake Gyllenhaal actually becomes...
Because it ends with him.
It does. But again, I mean, and Hugh Jackman is blowing the whistle. But in the end, those two are diametrically opposed. So I don't think it's at all the false or the evil woman, even though she does play a interesting role in this movie. Yeah, it is between the two of them. And I think it is interesting. I think the case could be made that Jake Gyllenhaal is the protagonist and Hugh Jackman, Keller, is actually the antagonist. I like that reading. I really do. In fact, I think there's something to that.
I think it's super cool, because I think the rest...
You've changed my mind on the pod. How dare you?
Well,
But it was between the two of them. Cameron, you sly dog. You changed my opinion. Keep going.
So a thing I think that is really interesting is I think the imagery of the dad ending up at the bottom of that hole is showing a payment for his sins. So everything that he did, and I think it's interesting that he was willing to go
all the bitterness, right?
Essentially going to hell to save his children, and he ended up in hell but saved his children. And so I think that's kind of one of the, does the ends justify the means? It's like, obviously he's going to have to pay for his sins, but it's like, if you were to ask Hugh Jackman, is going to jail, being a prisoner physically, worth that being a prisoner mentally of having
liberating
your children. And so I think he would take that any single day of the week. So that's why it was one of the things where it's moral thing where it's like, yeah, what he did is terrible, but in Hugh Jackman's mind, it's like, me beating him essentially like led to me figuring out what happened.
Dude, I would love to see a sequel to this movie. I know I would hate it, but I'm just saying, like, what you're saying, it's like, I wonder if over the years he would feel differently or not, right? Like, that's the ultimate question. But again, everything that we're given in this movie, I think you have the tools and the information necessary to determine. I think you're right, Cameron. I don't think he would regret it one bit. I think he'd be like, I could be physically in prison knowing that I got my kids back to my wife. Like, that's the only thing that mattered in the end.
Yeah.
Well, but he doesn't know, though. He got thrown in the pit. He doesn't know what happened to her.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Once he figures out.
True. Yeah, because if he gets out, Loki saves his life. He'll know that his kids are back home, which is incredible. I mean, that's the craziest ending, which is so
Yeah, do we think he died? I mean, because, he's bled out. So when he pulls them out of the pit, like, do you think he dies?
They can have emergency medical service.
I think he has the will to stay alive to know if she lived, and then he'll either die.
Or, Jake Gyllenhaal will pull Hugh Jackman close, and then he'll disappear, and the Jedi Ghost Force, dust magic. Hugh Jackman will be taken up in Force Ghost. Because there's no room for repentance, right? But that's why it's so good to end a movie like this, because then you can, speculate about what happens. And it's like, okay, he gets pulled out of the hole, he gets saved,
the end of Thing.
Finds out his kids are alive, and he gets through prison, he gets back home to his family and his loved ones.
No, he goes to jail, dude, for
how long? For kidnapping? It's not forever.
For abuse?
He gets out on good behavior? Yeah, he gets out on good behavior.
Kidnapping and abusing
abuse of a handicapped person, Ty, that isn't going to go over very lightly.
Who he believed was the responsible and was partially an accomplice to his kidnapping.
Now he's an accomplice.
Now he's an accomplice. Exactly right.
Exactly.
Now he's an accomplice. I'm just saying you have to make the law play in your favor if you want to get out on good behavior.
If Twitter got a hold of this story, he'd be in prison forever. They'd probably give him the chair.
What? What are you guys talking about? The criminal justice system. If you kidnap someone, I guarantee you it's not a prison sentence for life.
No, but beat up a handicapped kid?
And torturing him.
he didn't know he was handicapped at the time.
He definitely knew. They told him he has the IQ
Loki
of
says,
a
"I don't think it's
10-year-old."
him because he."
I didn't
he's
know
like,
he
"I'm
was.
saying You're wrong.
I didn't know he was gay till after I punched him.
I just punched him and he happened to be gay. It's a great line. From
I am
21.
one gay kid away from kicking you out of school.
I'm one gay kid getting punched in the face from kicking you out of school.
This movie is amazing, guys.
Really interesting.
I honestly believe that Jake Gyllenhaal's child was kidnapped and murdered, and that's why he is single by himself eating Thanksgiving. Because I think he's divorced, and also that's why he's so committed to these cases, is because he takes it personally, as if saving these kids' lives is redeeming and being able to save his own daughter and get repentance, because I bet he feels personally responsible for his own daughter's or son's death. And so he's like, if I can save these kids, maybe I'll feel better about myself. And that's why he obsesses so much over them.
Of all the detective movies, this is your favorite of the detectives?
I mean, it can't beat Zodiac, but
okay.
It's so hard because see, Zodiac's hard because it's almost like the person playing detective's not even a detective, because it's just Jake Gyllenhaal being a psycho cartoonist. I think Jake Gyllenhaal's character is my favorite detective.
That is
of all
funny that
time.
both of your favorites have Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
It's funny.
because I think Jake Gyllenhaal is the best This is the best detective of all time, character wise. Because I love it because he's so human, where he makes the dumb mistakes of letting the guy kill himself because he loses his cool. You see him loses his cool the other time with the keyboard.
And he solves both cases as either a detective and then a cartoonist detective.
Yeah, but dude, fetching. And both times end with the fetching creepiest mofos in freaking basements. Dude, he should have just put 2 bullets in the back of her head fetching before she even turns. But that's what I hate about it's police protocol, man. But that psycho chick,
you have to wait.
Yeah,
that's so sad. You have to wait till he freaking shoots you to get finally shoot back.
Yeah, because if it was me, boo, 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 80 bullets in the back of that whore's head. I was not messing around, bro. And I knew it, Jordan, especially watching with you. I'm not sure if you remember. As soon as he choked that dog, I'm like, guilty, guilty, guilty.
Well, if he knew she had a needle, giving it to the kid, he would have been able to shoot her, but he didn't know.
Because she was covering up
Needles, sure.
No, well, if he knew she was shooting the little girl up with poison, he would have shot her in the face. But because we're just saying it's police protocol to wait till the lady turns around and shoots him in the face before he can shoot back.
We were just saying how it sucked how he had to wait until she turned and shot him to fetching just put 2 in her head.
Not if he knew that she was armed, but he didn't know that she was armed until
that's
she
what we
turned
were saying.
around.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying if he saw the needle.
Oh yeah.
Well,
he didn't know what she was doing because her back was to him, and she's doing something. He's step away from her.
We were just saying it sucked that he had to follow police protocol when he could have just we just wanted him to put 2 in the back of her head.
Well, slow down. Did he have to? He didn't have to. He didn't have to obey it earlier on. But again, he's probably just caught up in the moment where he's like, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm assuming that's the victim. Step away from her right now.
Well, and the craziest thing is he only went over there to tell her that we found your kid and he's beat to a pulp. And it's so crazy that it's everything else unfolded right as he was there.
Quick question though, did he not figure it out when he saw the maze necklace?
When he saw the maze, that's why.
Yeah, when he saw the necklace in the photo at her house, that's when he figured it out.
See, but that's what originally I thought.
But no, he knew that he was her wife of some guy that had kidnapped and killed children, didn't he?
No.
Well, he at least knew that her husband was the guy that did it.
I think he figured it. I think he was suspicious. I think he was suspicious that her
Yeah.
husband was the guy, and so that's why he went over.
No, he didn't know it was her husband, did he?
Yeah, because the guy wore the necklace when he was alive.
No, remember that's why when he gets so pissed.
But he didn't see that photo until he got back to her house the second time.
Yeah, but doesn't he see the photo before he goes and shoots at her?
He smashes his keyboard, and then he...
Yeah, and he sees the photo, but he doesn't
the
know
photo
what
there.
it is.
Over
He
to
just
her
saw
house.
the same drawing from the guy that committed suicide as the necklace on the person. So he's like, they're connected. He didn't know who to.
But there is a living picture.
Oh, that's true. No, Ty, because then he goes to her house to tell her about the thing, and then he sees the picture.
And then he sees the
him.
photo.
And he's like, and that's when it all clicks, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's in here. She was the accomplice.
Right, but I'm saying, but he, you're right. So he does
Yeah.
initially go over to the house. But I'm saying he figures out before he faces
Yeah.
her, though. That's what
No.
I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the
In
moment.
that, like,
Faces
couple
her.
seconds before.
Yeah.
Right. But in that moment, he's like, oh my gosh,
This chick is a
lady's
freaking child
husband
cap-
was at least a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows?
No,
And it seems that it's still going on.
that
even
cool
though the guy's
keyboard
dead.
moment is just when you're like, he's piecing together that's the same image he drew. So this guy that was kidnapped.
He was also a kid that was kidnapped from this terrible couple.
Yeah.
And he was the one sneaking around stealing their clothes, which is why he was able to recreate that scene with their clothes, because he stole their kids' clothes, but it wasn't the clothes that they were wearing when they were
So
kidnapped.
good. As
Hugh
you're describing
Jackman
it, I'm just like, this
yeah.
movie is perfect.
And the severed pig head in the sink was super eerie, but he also used the pig's blood to mimic children's blood or make it look like it
and
was
that's why
children's blood.
I think this movie, just because like the details, you pick them up so well on second and third viewings. That's why it makes it so enjoyable on the rewatch. It's just because like details like the husband, like, and I didn't realize it until like the third watch when she's talking about, she's like, oh, we had a fight 5 years ago. She says the exact year when he died. She's like, we had a fight and he walked out and never came back.
And he tells the priest, like, how long has this guy been here? He's like,
5
5 years ago, this man came to me and was telling me,
Oh, cool.
he
I
had
didn't
done
know
all
that.
these terrible things. And you
And
wonder,
you're
like,
holy...
so they fought about something and she left, but like, I don't know what two murderous psychopath kidnappers that are waging a war against God fight about. I mean, it sounds like you found your mate for life.
But then you could also argue,
Match
was
made
she,
in
was
heaven
she
or
just
hell,
covering that
because
like maybe she thought, oh, he got killed, but there's no way she could have known.
Yeah, right. It's very interesting because she doesn't know what happened to him, which is pretty messed up. Because again, she's like, we got in a fight, and it's like maybe they really did have
But
a
then
fight.
you can't disclose it, like, hey, my serial killer husband is missing. Do you want to try to find him? You might find him with some children. Like, that's why she probably just never put out like a APB or whatever for him, because she's just like, screw it. Like,
Well, let's just assume that on face value it's true. You know what's crazy? Like, a lot of the cold cases are because people don't realize that anything was wrong. Like, one of my favorite cold cases, Bear Brooks' podcast, if everyone listens to that, it's an amazing series about how people have used genealogy work and like 23andMe and all this Ancestry.com stuff, and they've been able to solve cold cases that have been cold for years and years on end because someone can find out that, oh, this person was actually a relative of these people, and this girl was dating someone mysterious, and then she left her family, and because this boyfriend of hers had convinced her to cut ties with all of her family just assumed that she just dropped off the face of the earth because she didn't want to talk to him. But it turns out she was actually killed by this boyfriend that got her away from her family. And they were able to solve it like that because once you know who the person is, you can find out who the perpetrators are because it's usually someone that they know. It's like very rarely is it someone that you don't know. So anyway, that's really cool because in this movie, you're right, Cameron, like, what would it mean? Because they were both waging the war against God. She knew what her husband was doing, these monstrosities, these atrocities, and she was doing them too. Like, long after he was gone, she's like, I'll just go right up with
It sounded more like she almost started it because she said to Hugh Jackman, "You've got the same look."
Kid.
Oh, no, but she's like, you have the same look my husband did when we first started all this.
Yeah, a broken man. Yeah, which is really terrifying because, again, she lost her kid to cancer, right?
Yeah.
And it sounded like she was grieving over it more, and she's like, so we started
it's taking others.
waging this war against God.
It's so
Putting
sick.
other people through this. You're like,
Yeah, making them
what
lose their faith
miserable
in God.
people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Miserable people.
Dude,
like
misery loves
Satan wants you to be
company.
miserable.
Yeah.
Yep. Satan wants you to be miserable like unto himself. That is exactly what these people do. So that's a really interesting thing. And ultimately, like Clinton has said, does the end justify the means, or would you feel justified? No. In the end, like, if you abase yourself to that level, would the story still have gotten solved? Honestly, I don't know that the events would have unfolded the way they did, because if Hugh Jackman hadn't kidnapped Paul Dano, I don't know. I don't know that they would have looked into it more. They found the copycat, but again, these are all victims.
Well, the thing too that I think is cool is like at Hugh Jackman at his lowest, when he's literally in the pit, is when he like turns to God again, and he's like, "Please," and he doesn't ask, "Save me." He says, "Please save my daughter." So I think that's really beautiful. Is that in his lowest moment, he like is still. He's like, "All this was just to protect her." He's like, "I don't care what happens to me. Just save her."
Still thinking for her. Yeah, he doesn't care what happens to him, which is why he's still willing to drink a mystery purple drink from this lady that has a gun at him. It's crazy. Like, and he's willing to crawl into that pit, knowing he might never ever come out again.
But what can he do?
I know. Well, so me and Drew were talking about this because I watched it with me, Drew, and one of my roommates, Jake, and we were all. Well, first off, I had to convince Drew to watch it because he was like, okay, we just come back from last night in Soho. He's like, I don't know if I can do this heavy film. I was like, just watch to this one scene. I wanted him to watch to the "They didn't cry till I left them" scene, and then by then he was already hooked, and he stayed to watch the whole movie. And then afterwards, he was like, this movie is kind of like Seven, where I know it's an amazing film, but I don't know if I ever want to watch it again. He was like, that was just so heavy. But we were talking about it, and they're like, we don't know if like what you could do in that situation, like, because if you dove at her, because all you have to do is just avoid one fatal shot, and then you can just like attack her. But it's so hard because it's like maybe she gets lucky and headshots you, and then your daughter dies.
Definitely not a good idea to try it after you've taken this crazy substance, what sounds like LSD,
Oh, for
alcohol,
sure.
and it's
No,
like a
that's-
special
that's what
concoction that her husband used to make. Oh, so gross.
Well, he should have never turned her back when he was talking to her. That was his biggest mistake.
Yeah, I don't know why he literally said, I don't want to have to hurt you, before he realized that she was armed, and he's like, oh, she's on to me.
Yeah, like, why would
Yeah.
you turn your back to a freaking psycho killer? I mean,
He
kidnapping
also
woman.
had a gun ready. He should have gotten.
See,
yeah.
when you walk in is when you just punch her in the face and then you get her arm. and
Yeah,
that's when
or
say,
you have your gun out ready and aimed at
Now,
her.
mind you, he still needs. Yeah, he don't want to punch her or harm her because he might not find out where the kids are. Because
Yeah.
that is the number one. But you're right. He did make a fatal mistake walking in there. I just think he underestimated her ultimately.
I'd had the gun aimed and start shooting her kneecaps. And just,
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna go to shock, but I
And
didn't.
I think to his credit, what I think he was realizing is, I think he thinks that she was just defending Paul Dano, her nephew. To his credit, I don't think he thought of her as dangerous, but he's like, I don't want to have to hurt you,
Oh,
but you're gonna have to tell me
interesting.
where my kids are. And then she's got a gun train on him. And he's like, what the fudge? Like,
I
assume
think
that
he
I have
still
to-
thought it was him.
He still thought it was Paul Dano's character. He never had no reason to believe it wasn't Paul
He
Dano.
never thought it was hers. That's what it was. Okay.
Oh, it makes more sense.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Because otherwise,
now.
I would have just been like, kick her in the face.
In fact, what's even more terrifying is he still didn't think that she was involved, but he's like, I'm going to torture you until you tell me what I need to know. Which is pretty
No,
horrifying.
the moment he realized
pretty
is when
horrifying.
she said, I'll shoot your brains out and have your daughter come scrub them up off the floor. That was when he was like, holy shit, she's the one.
Yeah, probably. And he's probably like piecing it together. And he's like, holy shit. Not only does she know where, yeah, she's like, this is probably the crazy. And then she's all like telling him everything. And you're learning it as an audience member, just like he's learning. And he literally is learning it for the first time. He didn't solve it before he went over there. So that, to his defense, and again, it was a poor decision, because, and that's why he's so taken aback, because he's like, she's got a gun train on me. Again, immediately after he says that, like, he had no reason to believe that she was armed when he came over to the house.
Yeah, that makes a lot more
But
sense.
she's like ready and waiting for him, and she's like, which is so terrifying, because again, mind you, she offers him a drink right before he gets called away the first time, doesn't she? Like, it happens in this movie. I
I
swear.
just love real quick Drew and Jake's responses when they were watching with me. We were at 2 hours and 15 minutes in.
Yeah, she offers a cup of tea the first time he goes over there. Just saying, when he goes over there, she offers him a drink. I'm just saying, was she ready to poison him then? I don't know. Honestly, I think she was like fearful that he was on to her, and he wasn't. I'm just saying, because she offers him a cup of tea and then he has to leave. It's terrifying.
I was
It's
funny
great.
just because I was watching it with them and we were like 2 hours and 10 or 15 minutes in, and they were so frustrated because they were like, literally, we just watched 2 hours and 15 minutes of stress for nothing. They're like, they literally have nothing. They have no information. They're like, they have no idea where the girls are. Like, they literally have nothing. And then like 30 seconds later is when the first girl appeared. And like, oh, of course. Now,
Except-
yeah, that's why it was super fun.
Except the craziest line where it's like, we heard you there. That's the craziest
Yeah,
line. And that's
no,
where
you
Hugh
were
Jackman
there.
knows.
You were there.
Yeah,
That's
you were
when you're
there.
like,
That's all he needed to know, and he goes straight over to the house.
I missed that the first time. I'm like, what did he hear? I'm like, I didn't
Yeah,
understand that.
It's funny because the first
It's
time
like, I
I
heard you
watched
there.
it, did you know what I thought the first time I watched it? Is I thought that Hugh Jackman was actually the one like hiding the girls. I was like,
Yeah, because I was
what
like,
the
you were
fudge?
there. What?
I was like, you're involved?
Oh my
And I was like,
gosh.
oh my gosh, it's all a front.
It's a real Fargo situation. Yeah, he kidnaps his own kids for ransom money. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just craziness. It's such a good movie.
It does make you guess a million times, though. And I remember watching it the first time. I didn't even catch that Paul Dano was one of the kids. Oh, no. I think I knew Paul Dano. It was the other copycat that he was a victim, too. He was kidnapped. And I was like, oh, the snake guy, the guy with the bins.
I did not pick that up. The snake kid was a kidnap as well.
Polka Dot Man was an actual victim of, which is great because again, she also says like, my husband used to keep snakes. That's a great again reveal at the end. You're just like, oh my gosh, like that's when you know that poor kid copycatting, that was all from his captors. That's why he did all that stuff. It's so
And
great.
the smashed in mannequin faces. Fudge. Creepy as shit is.
Dead snakes.
Dude, bins full of snakes, that freaks me out like a lot. Like it was so unnerving. And a pig's head, severed pig head.
Oh, and the cool mazes, all of the walls. Like, there's so many things in this movie.
Dude,
that's
yeah, the set
perfect.
design must have taken forever to fetch and do that shit.
draw that.
They did. They had people go in and draw them all. That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Dude, Denny's old school. He just like all those beautiful practical effects.
I will just throw in that there was some amazing stunt work, and again, like you mentioned, the microphone almost blowing out, like that reaction shot. There is a few scenes I just wrote them in here. Was again just the scene where they're interrogating him and he has the hammer and he's smashing the porcelain sink. I've just never seen a moment in film where I was brought to tears, but I was also horrified at what I was watching, while also incredibly moved. It's just like Hugh Jackman at the peak of his powers, and I don't know if he ever got nominated for that. He's like an Academy Award nominated actor, right? But I think it was like for another movie.
I think for Logan.
For Logan, was that the one?
I don't know.
He's an incredible actor, and this blew me away. That scene.
It's amazing, too, that they didn't show him beat up the kid that much. You saw him punch him like 1 or 2 times. It's implied more that what he's done.
Yes, and the horrifying was the water, the rigged water, the freezing cold or the blistering hot. That's horrifying. You only see
My
the
roommate and
little hole.
Drew were talking about how the makeup was so good. They're like, yeah, it's hard to look at Paul Dano. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
sad.
the makeup
So
was
sad.
so good, and just like, and they were talking about how horrifying that visual of his like one eye in the darkness, of like being a prisoner in the darkness. It was like, oh.
He built him a little prison that he can barely sit down in, and he blasts water on
As
it.
if he's already not a prisoner in his own eye. There's so many.
Do we recommend it, Ty? I think yes, 100%.
Oh my
Not
gosh.
for the faint of heart, but like if you don't mind ours, absolutely the best. One of the best.
I even love like the very beginning when they're hunting. I just love Hugh Jackman like had his sights. He taught his son how to hunt. Like and he yells at his son once. He like it puts a strain on every person in the family. Like he yells at his son to be like, "I need to be a strong man. You need to take care of your mother," because he wasn't willing to do that. He was like, "I'm off finding my daughter and doing what's necessary. So you stay behind and help mother who's doping up on pills."
And then when his son called him out on it, don't think I can't smell it off you.
smell drunk on you, and he's like, "You have no idea what I'm doing." He was literally drinking to get by with Loki, because Loki was investigating him
What
and
were you
onto him,
doing?
and he's like, "Oh, I'm just drinking." Yeah.
I parked in a liquor store. I came out with liquor. I think you can fill in in between. And he's like, no.
Yeah,
Before that,
yeah.
where you were walking
I
in
would
the
just
other
say,
direction.
as far as Paul Dano is concerned, I think he was a perfectly cast. Jake Gyllenhaal is perfectly cast. Hugh Jackman is perfectly cast. Like, this movie is perfectly casted. Like, Paul Dano is the perfect choice of actor to
He's
be
so
the,
creepy.
the sad, quiet, Weasley. He's going to be a great Riddler, I really think. Anyway, I just love, again, Detective Loki's great. Solved every case he's been assigned to. Still has the guy. Why was he so mean to him, though? Is there any reason that guy had to be mean to him? He didn't like his methods?
His means, dude. He doesn't like his methods.
Didn't. Just crazy. And then lastly, I had...
You can do it, Ty.
Oh, okay. The other really emotional scene, again, was when Hugh Jackman yells at him. He's like, "You wasted your time following me. You let this happen." He puts it back on Jake Gyllenhaal
unfair.
when he identifies the clothes, which is, it's just such a low blow. It's not fair. It's so cruel. And again, Jake Gyllenhaal, you see how much he's giving. Hugh Jackman isn't privy to any of this. Like, he's fighting with his lieutenant. His lieutenant's like, "We can't keep him another day." He's like, just come up with the reason. Like, and he goes, "Why didn't you notify?" Like, they weren't telling Jake Gyllenhaal that they were no longer observing Paul Dano, so he went missing. And he's like, "Why didn't you told me that he was going to be under surveillance. I need to know if something's going to change." Like, they keep him in the dark. It's so freaking painful.
Yeah.
Anyway, a little nugget. I had to just give a shout out to the show Ozark. One of the excavators at the very end is the guy that gets peanut butter licked off of his toes, and it has like the mother that wants the crazy embalming. That's him, Jordan. That weird Weasley guy that owns the funeral home. Or he doesn't own the funeral home, rather. But his mom gets like super embalmed. Do you remember that character?
I don't.
Gets dogs to lick off peanut butter off his toes, and he has to fight.
I know, you keep repeating it. I don't remember that.
He fights with Jason Bateman's mom, and her mother's really evil. Anyway, it's really funny. He's in Ozark, and he's literally in that one scene. I thought that was really funny. The drive to the hospital is incredible, and then like Jake Gyllenhaal getting out of the car, slipping on the ice, so frantic, carrying in the daughter into the hospital. It's just an amazing scene, just incredible. And the little whistle, the whistle which appears and disappears, and then she buys the new one, and then he finds his daughter's whistle, uses his own daughter's whistle to save himself. It's just incredible.
And talk about Denis being such a patient and like director with not giving you a lot of the payoff scenes. Like, it's so impressive because he doesn't let you see like her being treated. He doesn't let you see like Paul Dano being discovered. Like, and that's why it makes the final payoff like where you don't see what happens to Hugh Jackman so like understandable.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely recommend it.
Highly recommend this movie.
100%.
Highly recommend it. It's incredible performances. All right, guys. futromovies@gmail.com. Leave us an email. Tell us a movie that you'd like us to review. Tell us a movie that we reviewed in the past or something that we reviewed in this episode that you didn't like. Probably get around to reading some comments other episodes that don't run as long. So leave us a 5-star review. Check us out on Patreon. Check us on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media sites. This has been Futuro Hidden Movie Gem signing out. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.